I'm trying to create a legacy for my family. I want my niece and nephews, the next generation, to understand that they can do better. They don't have to be stuck with what they see in the past.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of High Stakes with Steve Rozenberg. We have a really good show today, someone who I call a friend. He's a client and someone that I know, and I think he's got a great story to tell. I say this all the time, and I say it because I mean it. You never really know someone that walks past you, but everybody that walks past you on the street, right? Or in a restaurant or in a bar, they all have a past. They have a present that you are involved with right now. And they have a future that the next second of their life, they don't know what's going to happen, and neither do I. But we always walk past people, but we never take the time to just ask them, like, hey, what's your deal? Where do you live? Where are you from? Traveling the world for the last 30 years, I have been fortunate enough to be sitting in restaurants or bars in all places of the planet and been able to just ask people that in different languages, in different communities, different cultures. And the one thing I found is everybody has a past, good, bad, horrific, whatever you want to call it, but they've gone through it and they've made it through because you're talking to them, which is proof that they can make it through. So today I have a good friend of mine, Dan Bennett, is on, and I just want to talk to him about who is Dan? What does he do? What got him to the Dan that I'm looking at today? So Dan, first of all, thanks for being on, man. I appreciate it, brother.
Thanks for having me, Steve. It's an honor for sure.
So tell everyone kind of just a little bit, where do you live and what you do, and then we'll kind of dig in a little bit.
All right, cool. I'm in Connecticut. I live in Northeast Connecticut, and I do remodeling. I'm a carpenter by trade. I went to school for carpentry, and I've practiced in the construction industry my whole life. I've been running my business since 2004. Unfortunately now I've gotten to hang up the tool belt and just concentrate on running my business.
I tell you what, personally being involved in that, I think it's the best gift you can be gifted, I think, is the gift of freedom, right? The freedom of your time to be able to use your brain and think. Now, I'm guessing in this journey that you've been on, you've had some trials and tribulations and ups and downs. But what I'd like to hear about is, tell me about a part of your journey that maybe no one knows about, no one claps about it, but it kind of changed everything for you. Any things that you can think about that did that?
Wow, that's a good one. Definitely trials and tribulations for sure. I think coming from the being a craftsman and getting into the industry, or getting into business, I should say. I really couldn't have considered myself an entrepreneur. I didn't know anything about running a business. I just jumped in because I didn't want to be working for other people, making other people money all the time. And quite frankly, I thought it was easy. So I learned the hard way that it's not so easy. One thing that's changed everything for me is asking better questions, I guess is the way to sum it up.
Okay.
Realizing that it was okay to ask questions. I kind of, for a majority of the time, for many years, really, just sort of speak, kept my head down and grinded away, and I didn't know what I didn't know, and things never seemed to get better. And then I finally smartened up and started asking better questions.
If you didn't choose this path that you chose and where you're sitting today, where do you think you'd be right now?
Oof. That's a hard question. I don't know, man. Probably wouldn't be great. I'd be working for somebody, living paycheck to paycheck, most likely. And, hoping for the best when it's all said and done, and, hoping that I could scrap together a retirement,
Do you think you'd be happy if you didn't know this life that you have today? And you were just doing your thing, grinding it out every day, do you think you'd be happy?
I'm a happy person. I make the best out of any situation I'm in. So I'd like to think I would be. But that's hard to say. Who
Yeah.
knows?
It's always tough because you don't know. I mean, there could be another level of happiness that you haven't reached yet that's coming your way. That's coming. You just haven't met that person yet, right? Or the person of you to become that. So it's a tough question. Is there, as you were doing this, right? You're a contractor. You're in tough weather, right, up there in the Northeast, dealing with all that over the last 20 plus years. Was there ever a time that you just thought, man, maybe I should just quit this and go back? But obviously you didn't. Tell me about one of those times.
Yeah, well, honestly, there was a time I did quit. I did it for 10 years. And then I couldn't figure out why it wasn't getting better. And it was a bad point in my life. I just got out of a long relationship. I was living in New York at the time, away from my family. And I just was like, I just had it. I was like, it's not working. I'm not getting anywhere. I could do better working for myself, or working for somebody else rather. So I did. I threw in the towel. I moved back home. I said, I'm not going to start another business. I'm just going to go home, find a job working for, as a project manager or something. And so I did that for a few years. So yeah, that's a real thing.
Like
Yeah.
what did you believe in that time? Like what was your belief of success, or was it, this is not for me, this is unattainable? Like what did you believe at that moment?
Yeah. I believed that yeah, it wasn't going to work. It wasn't for me. Like I didn't have what it takes. Like I thought, because I saw other people around me, other business owners successful, or they seem like they're successful, but you don't really know their story either. But I believed that I couldn't do it. And I tried for 10 years. I tried hard. I thought I did anyway. I did try hard. I didn't know how. I didn't know what I was doing wrong. Um, so yeah, I believed that I couldn't. It wasn't going to work. It wasn't me.
So let me ask you, you obviously broke through that, right? I mean, you're sitting here today. You didn't burst into a million pieces, and you built the business, right, to what it is. And I ask this question to a lot of people. A lot of times we think about what we need to do more of, right? But what did you have to let go of mentally to become the person who's sitting here today that built a business that's successful? You have employees. What kind of things did you have to say, that's not me anymore? I'm not doing that. That belief doesn't work. Can you think of any things like that you had to go through?
Yeah, I mean, negative mindset, negative self-talk, but telling myself that I couldn't do it. That was a big one for me. I learned how important your mindset is. Just straightforward. It's so important. The way you talk to yourself, the way you think, it determines it all. There's no doubt about it. And so you gotta keep your head up and yeah, not allow that negative energy to take you down.
Do you ever try to, like, when you have employees or people around you, like, did you have to let go of people, like friends, people
Oh,
that were in your circle that you're like, you love them, right? I mean, and some of these people, I mean, we're related to, that we go, not sure this cousin I should be around, or whoever it is dragging me down. Did you have to go through that as well?
100%. Yeah, that was another thing that I learned. It was just real eye opening. We've all heard this, right, a million times. The people you surround yourself with the most, or you're the average of the people you surround yourself with the most. And when I learned that, like you said, you got friends and stuff, so it's hard. Like it's a hard mindset at first. You're like, these are the people I grew up with. These are
Right.
these are my friends. This is my circle. But I realized pretty quickly that it was important. It doesn't mean you have to completely write them out of your life,
Sure.
but you gotta limit the time that you spend with people like that, and then surround yourself with better people, with people that are like minded and trying to go where you're going.
Well, I've heard multiple versions of this. The most common one we all know is birds of a feather flock together.
Hmm.
I've heard you are probably very close to the same bank account levels of the people you hang around with.
Mm-hmm.
So you ask yourself, okay, am I around people doing 7, 8 figures, or am I around people doing 6 figures? I don't think there's anything wrong with either one, but you will reflect that, right? I mean, it's just common sense, right?
Right.
Have you figured out how to, you have employees, how do you try to instill that in them, or do you?
Yeah, I try to keep a positive mindset and tell people, I share that with people all the time, people that work for me, friends, family. I tell people all the time, it's all about your mindset. If you think you can, or you think you can't, you're right. Then that's super important. 100%. I try to start, my day, Argentina and I, Argentina, that's, we spend a lot of time together virtually. She's my executive assistant, virtual assistant. And, we just start every day with some positive talk. How was your day? And we both come to the every day, it's doing fantastic. Absolutely. That's just the way it is.
So let me ask you, as an entrepreneur, right? We all know we have, we have good times, we have bad times, we have horrible times. And sometimes that's all before 12 o'clock, right? Things happen. Right. How do you deal with problems now compared to how you dealt with problems maybe when you were younger, full of piss and vinegar, ready to scorch earth? Like, how does the Dan I'm looking at today deal with setbacks, issues, all that stuff?
Take it with a grain of salt, take a deep breath, like, don't overreact, and then, analyze it. What's going on, and how do we make this better? How do we make this go away?
Is there a lot of self-reflection when you're doing that, in the sense of like, am I, listen, bad things happen to all of us, right? We can't control that. How we react to them is obviously the key. And we always hear the thing, oh, there's a lesson in there. And it doesn't always feel like a lesson when it's happening to us.
Right.
And I've learned that anytime I react emotionally, I normally regret it. Normally it's like, probably was not the way to handle that situation. Mm-hmm. I've never sent an emotional text message out of anger and said, I'm glad I did that. Like, right. The next day you're like, probably shouldn't have done that.
Mm-hmm.
How have you changed in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, well, like I just said, just take a deep breath, right? Think about it before you do it. There's definitely times I pick up the phone. I'm, in the moment, I'm mad. I start typing that text. But fortunately, these days, I usually, almost always, before I send it, I realize it's a bad idea, and I go back and delete it, and then I stop and think about it, and then I check my phone 5 minutes later and go, "Oh man, I hope I didn't push the button."
Yeah, I've done that as well. I've typed it and then just hit erase, and it felt good just to type it, just to get it out. It felt good enough,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the Dan today that I'm looking at today, what level of success are you chasing now? Like, what is Dan trying to do now?
That's a great question. I'm trying to create a legacy for my family. There's never really any signs, evidence of success in my family. I want my niece and nephews, the next generation, to understand that they can do better. That they don't have to be stuck with what they see in the past, and really that's it. That's what's most important to me is teaching those kids that they can do better.
Do you have any non-negotiables in life, like for you personally as Dan?
Well, yeah, I mean, going back, like, what we've already talked about, going back to like hanging out with the people that I grew up around, the people that, hell, a lot of rough stuff in my life when I was younger that we haven't even talked about, but, getting away from that and sticking to it, I'm not going to go back there and do those things anymore. I'm going to put my best foot forward every day. So that's a big one for me. Yeah, that's a great question. I wish I had a better answer for that, but
no, it's okay. Like when we talk about our youth, right? Everybody has a past, right? Some are good, some are bad. does not being maybe the person or doing the things that you talked about or that you just alluded to, does that drive you to not be worse, or does it drive you to be better? Like there's a difference, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it drives me to be better for sure. Yeah.
How would you how does Dan Bennett, if you were to step away from Dan Bennett and look at Dan Bennett, what does that mean to you, being better? Like, what does that mean?
Just doing better things in my life than the people that before me, you know. I think like what pops into mind is, you know, like my father, my grandfather, you know, I think they were both smart people, but I think they didn't know that they didn't know what they didn't know, and they never got the opportunity to learn those things, and know that they could do better for themselves and for their family. And they just did what was like laid before them, so to speak. They just did what they were good people. They worked hard, you know, but at the end of the day, they had nothing to show for it. And I've been blessed with the opportunity to see that it can be different, and I'm gonna take that and run with it for sure.
I think a lot of times as entrepreneurs, you know, we're all focused on freedom. You know, we want that word freedom. But I think a lot of us have a hard time defining what that means, right? We use the word, but not a lot of people can tell me like, what is freedom for you? What is freedom for you? Because it's different for everyone, right? You and I may have different definitions of freedom. Like how would you describe freedom for you, like in your life?
Freedom for me is getting my business to a point where I can step away from it, and it will still run without me, and generate revenue, and you know, be a successful company that I can sell at some point or pass down. Either way, it's going to be sold. But you know, whether it's my family, my niece and nephews that take it if they show the initiative and they want it, or I sell it to somebody else. But that's freedom for me, is getting to that point with my business.
Got it. Okay. And you I know you're close with your nephews. How do you get them to see like the next generation?
I just try to talk to them. I take every opportunity when I spend a lot of time with them, and I just try to without like preaching, without it, because I don't want them to be like turned off by it, you know. So I just try to show them examples of, you know, what I'm doing now and what people in the past in our family did that didn't work, and just letting them know that I'm building this, really genuinely doing what I'm doing, building this business for them. And they can have it if they want, but they're not going to just walk in the door one day and it's going to be sitting there for them. They've got to show me that they want it. They've got to put forth an effort and really want it.
Yeah. So tell me, what is for DBC Solutions? What does the picture look like for you 5-10 years from now? Like what is that?
I set a goal with you for when my business will be a sellable asset, which is this month. We're getting really close to it. 1 year from now, when it will be able to run on its own. So 6/9/27 is my goal for that, and I want to retire by the time I'm 60, which is 2032.
Nice. Okay. What do you want to do when you retire?
Travel, relax.
Really?
Yeah.
Where would you want to go? What comes to mind?
It's a crazy one, I guess, but Mexico is one of them. I've never been out of the United States other than Canada one couple times. So that's, you know, I've traveled all over the United States a lot.
Right.
But I want to travel outside of the United States. I want to go to Europe, and you know.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think, you know, I'm a big believer that our lives are like books, and books are made of chapters. Mm-hmm. Chapters begin and chapters end. And sometimes people forget to close a chapter, right, of their life, and they drag it on. People who still live in the high school days, which we all probably have those people, you know. People that have a business that they should have walked away from long time ago, or they should have shut down a long time ago for whatever reason. And I just think a lot of times people have a hard time understanding that, you know, there are chapters that begin and chapters that end. What chapter do you think you're on?
I'm going to call it growth. I'm behind the eight ball, so to speak, because of, what we've already talked about here, right? I didn't know what I didn't know. And I spent a lot of years. I always wanted to be I was a business owner since 2004. That's when I started, but I wasn't doing it right. I didn't know what that meant. And so I wasted a lot of time like that. I mean, I can't look back on that and
Sure.
worry about it. I just got to move forward. So, this is a chapter of growth for me. It's huge. Got to get there.
Well, look, I think at the end of the day, you may not have been here had you done it at any other format or fashion. So you can't say that you're behind, because I would say you're assuming that you were going to get here anyways. That may not have happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really glad that you said that, Steve, because that is, something that I've always known, right? I've always had that positive mindset that I am going to get there. I am going to have a successful business. My whole life, every job I ever had before I started my own business, I wanted to own it. I always would look at the leadership of the business and always think I can do it better than them. And it didn't matter what the business was. I wanted to own it. I wanted to be the boss. I wanted to run the company. So I feel like I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset. And I'm in construction because that's what I know. I went to school for carpentry. That's what my dad wanted me to do. And I'm not quite sure why, but my dad preached that to me when I was young. Always, I want you to go to trade school. I want you to be a carpenter. Not exactly sure why, and he's not here anymore to ask. But I did it. I think because he wanted me to, and then that's just what I knew the best. So when I was ready, that's the business I got into.
Let me ask you: if you look back on your journey, right, and that's all it is, a journey. One thing I was going to say is that if it takes you 6 years, 8 years, 10 years to get a degree, there's no timestamp on it. If it takes you 30 years to build a business, there's no timestamp on it. Nobody cares, right? And so sometimes we care and we feel that we're in some race that nobody knows about or cares about. But the reality is nobody cares, right? You care about your parameters of what you set for you. And that's why I say, like, we may think we're behind the curve, but the assumption is that you were going to end here had you went a different path. You may have went way over here and never even been where you're sitting today. And you may have just been an employee. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I just think that I wouldn't be hard on myself. I think what you're doing is you're where you should be, right? At every moment, Somebody taught me this term, be where your feet are at, meaning be in the present at all times, because you're here, right? On your journey, any regrets along the way?
Well, that just plays right back into what we were just talking about, right? Like, no, I don't. I try not to think of things like that because, everything that I did got me to where I am now, right? So if I had done things differently in my life, like you just said, maybe I wouldn't be here. Maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation. And it goes back to what we were saying, what I said a minute ago about, I always knew, and there's times that it was hard to see it. There was a lot of times in my life where I didn't understand how it was going to happen or how I was going to get there, but I just always knew that I would end up running a business and being successful at it.
One last question for you. We're talking to the young Dan Bennett that's just getting out of trade school. He's ready to go. He's got his tool belt. What is a truth or advice that you would give them that you wish somebody would have told you?
Great question. Focus on money. That's the number one thing that comes to my mind is, really how important that is. And how it's not that difficult to get started at a young age and build wealth for yourself. And I that's another thing that I talk to my niece and my nephews all the time about is, focus on money. Like it's okay to be a kid and have a good time, but But focus on your money. Be smart with your money, because when you get to be my age, you don't want to be scrambling to catch up, for sure.
Yeah, I think that's so wise. And again, sometimes we forget that we're doing this to make money, to have a life, to create memories. And sometimes we forget about those things, and we don't make those front and center. And if you don't respect it, you don't inspect it, and it doesn't change. And so I think it's awesome. Well, Dan, dude, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate your time, and I think you've got a great story. Any last words of advice? Anything to think of?
Well, when you asked me that last question, there's two things that popped in my mind. So the other one would be, and I said this earlier, just ask better questions. Don't be afraid to ask. You'd be amazed how people will step up and help you if you just ask. But if you don't ask, they don't know you need it. So, yeah.
Dude, that is so true. There's nobody knows what you're going to ask until you open your mouth, and there's no such thing as a dumb question except the one that is never asked.
Right.
So I appreciate it. Well, Dan, thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate your time.
Likewise, Steve. It was a pleasure talking to you, for sure. Thank you.
All right. For those of you watching, we'll see you next week on another episode of High Stakes with Steve Rozenberg, and we'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.